Hey everybody, and welcome to Virtual Vines. I'm Dan Mackey with the great TC Frazier from Try Distributing. We have a fun
There's also only, according to it says 4 people are watching, but Barb is the only one I see.
No.
Okay, Melissa just logged on.
No, this is not good. Okay, well, why is that the case? Why do we have no audio? No, there's audio. There's audio. Okay. There's audio. Okay, I don't know why. Okay, we're good. Of course, I might have been just right there in the beginning that we didn't have. We had a little issue, but yeah. So we have audio. Good. So yeah. I hope. I just talked for like 5 minutes, so we'll do a recap of that. But a couple other events that we have coming up. South African wines tasting as well in the shop on the 21st. Do have a lot of space available in the morning and evening. That 2 to 4 seems to be what time everybody wants to come in, so very limited there. And then also after we do the live show or the live audience show in the shop, we'll have Marietta Cellars tasting. Christoph's joining us, but also Sean.
Yeah, owner and wine and winemaker as well.
Yeah, owner and winemaker.
Third, fourth generation, something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be a huge show. Having the winemaker and Christoph, the distributor and the owner of the company. It's going to be a lot of fun. So so you don't want to mark your calendars for that one. You don't want to miss that. Well,
and several of you guys have the Cristo, tried the Cristo, love the Cristo. I mean, if that's any indication of how these wines are, I think we're pretty much going through almost the whole entire gamut, at least of what we carry. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So let's get going. Let's get into this. We have a lot of fun wines for you. We're going to start off with a little fun wine, new wine to the market too, from Marietta as well. This is a Sauvignon Blanc. It does have a couple other grapes in it, but we're going to say it's Sauvignon Blanc. You might remember in the past, if you know the brand, The Whip. So this is very similar to that, but not a little bit more Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, look at that. Pretty label.
Yeah, so guys, Marietta as well. This is a company, winery, I should say, in Livermore Valley. It's a beautiful, nice little label that kind of pops all the different little blocks of different varietals and cultivars that they have. But what's great about Marietta as well is they have no pre-planned formula of what they're going to do from year in and year out. So certainly they have certain varietal based blends, like the Spur is always going to be a Bordeaux blend with a good amount of Petite Syrah. And the Spur has always kind of been this Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc with a few other things. Well, really, over the past few years, they've dialed it in to make a Sauvignon based wine with a little bit of Chardonnay and these beautiful aromatic varietals. Some years they put Gewürztraminer, Muscat Canelli, and this year they put a little bit of Malvasia, or as the Italians would say, Malvasia. But what I love about this particular winery is that they have cuttings from a gentleman that came over in the 1880s named Louis Mel. That was a proponent not only of Bordeaux varietals, but also Sauvignon Blanc in particular, and brought cuttings from the famed Chateau Yquem. And Chateau Yquem, if you ever have a chance, I mean, that is the occasion, but a $3.75 bottle at the Loaded Grape would probably cost you about $300 to $400 per bottle, something you usually want to keep for very, very special occasions. But what's fantastic about this property, the Wintes, who certainly need no introduction, they're one of the largest wineries in the Livermore Valley, purchased this property in the 30s and really has let this winery run almost as a separate entity over the past 30 or so years. They had blended in wine. They have these old cultivars, as I said, Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, but also Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. They also do some great, interesting Barbera and Sangiovese of all things there. But what I can say about this, guys, and the overall picture, what we're doing tonight, we're going to start off in the northern part of sort of what I would call the Central Coast. And we're going to refer to the Central Coast over and over tonight. But the Central Coast is really a huge swath of area. It's over 700 miles long, starting just below San Francisco in the Santa Cruz Mountains, all the way south to Santa Barbara, which is about 2 hours north of Los Angeles. 700 miles. There's several states, especially on the east, that are nowhere near that size and scope. You drive 700 miles, and then in New England, you're pretty much covered most of the states there. But having said that, you can see, being so long, right by the coast, you have these beautiful diurnal shifts, topography changes, different soil types, obviously, but perfectly positioned right along the Pacific coast. unlike the Central Valley, now the Central Valley makes a lot of wines, but that's really where you get the Gallo and the really big brands of wine, the 20 to 30 tons an acre. Whereas when you get on the coastline, the winemakers often have to worry more about ripening and not acidity. Whereas if you're in a hot area, say like Lodi or even say northern Napa, ripeness is not a concern. It's acidity. You want to maintain acidity, so it's the opposite. So with this Marietta as well, guys, I love it. They actually let the Chardonnay, which in this year it's only 6%, but it actually goes through a little bit of malolactic fermentation. Yeah. But that's only 6% of the wine. Gives it that creaminess, that richness. So it's not just over the top Sauvignon Blanc, super acid, super acidic, right? And what I love about warm climate Sauvignon Blanc, you get more of that melon, you get more of that peach, more of that guava, banana. It's not just herbs and cut grass and grapefruit like New Zealand and certainly other parts that grow that are a little bit more coastal. So
yeah, this one has a nice hearty flavor at the end. Like it's not so much dry as normal Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got this great kind of green apple, kind of like lime zest, lime peel kind of a thing in the background.
I'm really enjoying it.
It's not heavy,
not even big citrus. You're right, more apple than citrus.
And I'm really having to dig for grapefruit. I mean, New Zealand, we can write in grapefruit's already here, right? Yeah. I mean, so for those of you out there, when we said Sauvignon Blanc and you're like la 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 la, I mean, this is not like this is not a grapefruit bomb. This is not Fresca in a bottle. So.
No.
And I think Vanna.
This could almost seriously almost pass for a white blend.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Yeah. I mean, and so what they've done with this particular vintage, and I've talked to the rep before the show because I'm like, is the name going away? Are they keeping it? And he's like, well, we're kind of keeping it, but it's kind of going away. So by California wine law, if it's 75% of anything, they can just label it whatever that varietal is. But Marietta as well, because whether it be their rosé or the spur, which is their red, everything is blended there. So people would go, well, we're going to lose this whole audience that love blends. Obviously red blends, but with white blends. And so with this particular wine, and what Vanna mentioned earlier, with that texture, that Malvasia, gives it that richness, and the Chardonnay. And I think that muscat, you get that orange white blossom thing on the nose, but it's not overpowering. It's not sweet at all, guys. I mean, when you said these other varietals, this wine is bone dry. I mean, it's 12 and a half, actually 14%. So totally fermentable and dry. 100%, only 100 barrels produced times 25 cases. So you guys do the math. So not a lot of wine.
Come up with a new shirt and a new slogan. This is a palate pleaser.
A palate
pleaser. Yeah.
No, this we've always been fans of the whip in the shop, and
it's range, but it's been some almost off dry in some cases. In some years, I mean, it's almost more conundrum like.
Yep.
It's been
that's
more,
not this.
Yeah, not this at all.
So if you know the conundrum white, that's not this
at all, or like the foliography white or some of those other ones. But this guy's, it's like it's not super rich or tart like other Sauvignon Blancs you had. That Chardonnay, I think, just gives it the backbone. I really can't get much Chardonnay in it other than just that richness because of the malolactic in it. But a beautifully made wine, I think. And this is the 19 was just released.
Yeah.
And a great nose on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, when you think about Sauvignon Blanc from cuttings from Chateau Yquem, from some of the most expensive Sauvignon Blanc vines in the entire world, and they've been propagating there for about 120 plus years. It's no question. And you can get that wine for, I know we hadn't even talked about price tonight, but we're not talking anywhere near in the three digits like some of these other late harvest wines. But
no, we got this down to $21 plus your club discounts. You can head over to the loadedgrape.com right now and throw some of these in your cart. It's absolutely delicious. So if you're saying, hey, you know what? I need to put some whites in my I don't have any whites. I been loading up on reds. I need some whites. Hey, it's gonna be 70 degrees tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be 70 degrees for like 4 or 5 days.
You might want to have this in the old refrigerator to pull out when you're like, hey, I want to start the night with this and maybe end by the fire with a red. Like, is that because it's like
beautiful wine, beautiful quality. As we've done several Wintés on the show before, so you guys know the quality of Winté. And really, when you think about the Livermore Valley, I know we showed a little bit of a map, but think of San Francisco. If you go south and just to the east, so we think of. I don't know if Livermore Valley is technically considered. We're taking a little bit of license there, but it's really south of. So it's definitely not Napa or Sonoma. But what's great about it, San Francisco Bay, it's just that. Not only does the wind get sucked up to the north, we always talk about Napa and Sonoma getting that wind and Carneros. It also gets sucked down to the south. And so Livermore Valley, the reason why it has this rich history of growing Bordeaux varietals, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, is because the not only the soil types, but also the climate is very much like Napa, specifically St. Helena and Calistoga. So, the Livermore CH Wente, and I think it's, Concannon way back in the day were the first to do it. Certainly Concannon is owned by a big conglomerate now, but Wente is still family owned. They do several cases, obviously under different labels at different price points. But this folks is a wine, 100 barrels produced, $20 before your discount, $21 before your discount.
Yeah. So if you're going to Little Grape and you're in the club, remember Cellar Club if you're in the Cellar Club, Estate and Estate, or Reserve in the Reserve Club. TC, before we go to the next wine, should we do one of our trivia questions?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So let's put this up here. Let me show you this. Of all the wine produced in the United States, what percentage is California? Yeah. So if you say, so if the whole United States equals 100%, how much of it is California? So go ahead, throw your answers in there. Our first prize for you is a brand new Robert Hall Butler's tool. So go ahead and start throwing your answers in there. Correct answer will get a brand new Butler's tool. You can never have enough of those around the house or in the car or other places. And so we do have Barb chiming in, wants to know what everybody's drinking. But go ahead and throw your answers on that question up as we start pouring our next wine, which I'm so excited about.
Just landed, and you talk about, we're doing Central Coast tonight. We're going to get very specific. But really, you can't talk about Central Coast, or I'd even say California Pinot Noir specifically. And obviously, we're doing Pinot Noir Rosé without the Pisoni family. I mean, I'm not being hyperbolic, guys. I mean, Gary Pisoni, if you ever get a chance, number one, and to have a lunch with this guy, I mean, it's going to be several bottles of wine. So go ahead and, clear your calendar for the rest of the day and probably the next day as well. But you talk about personifying the American spirit, going out west, kind of putting all your money on something that you truly believe in and paying off in spades. I mean, so I think it was just a few years ago, Wine Enthusiast or Wine Spectator, one of the main publications, had listed the Pisoni Vineyard as one of the California Grand Cru vineyards. So literally today, there are several top-end, high-flight, $50, $60, $80+ Pinot Noirs that do a Pisoni vineyard. As a matter of fact, we're going to do Sadori next. Sadori does a Pisoni vineyard as well. And I can tell you it's going to be much more expensive than the one we're going to do tonight. But, you talk about a 40-acre little plot carved out the side of a mountain that is just, that make these uber small berries that really is so unique and so diverse that you couldn't find it anywhere else. I mean, you talk about going up to 75, 80 degrees during the day and then dropping down to 45 to 50 degrees at night in the summertime. So it's just perfect for Pinot Noir, and you get in this kind of cool fog that just kind of rolls over it right there. So beautiful wine. So we'll talk a little more about it. Do we have any answers there?
We do have
85%, 36%.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, are we doing this?
We're rounding up or down?
Like closest without going over? Is that
closest without going over?
That's Price is Right rules, right?
Yeah, closest without going over.
Closest without going over. We have a lot. We have our closest without going over. Close. Two very close. So Barb, you're going to be the closest without going over. She has 85%. The actual number, let me pull this up here for you, is 90%. 90% of what's made in the United States is coming out of California.
I mean, a lot of wine made in New York and Washington and Texas, guys, but pales. I mean, doesn't even pale. It's not even a comparison, really. Yeah. I mean, you think about and let's take it back, Mexico and Canada, because obviously a little too warm in one spot, a little too cold. So North America, most of the wine production in North America is in California. So it's pretty spectacular.
That's really cool. And we got more questions coming, so still more chances to win some prizes tonight. But I also wanted to throw this up there, and you guys can throw it in the chat below. Anybody drinking at home tonight? Where are you guys drinking? Where are you guys doing? Are you home watching virtual vines? Are you someplace else watching virtual vines? And what are you drinking? What are you having? Are you having something from a past show? Are you having something, something new that we haven't, done on the show? Let us know. Put it in the comments below. We'll share that as we talk about other things throughout the show tonight. And Barb will start you off, and she's drinking the Mo Sierra Salinas. Yes. Oh, the Monastrell.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yummy.
Gotta get Victor back on the show too.
Yes, we gotta get Victor.
What is it? 6-8 months?
8 months since we had Victor on the show. Yeah. We gotta do that.
Yeah, do that again.
So let's now talk a little bit more about this rosé, because I'm telling you right now, it is rosé season. It is here. It's time for it.
Does it ever really go away? I mean, it kind of goes. It never goes away.
No, it doesn't. And Martha Stewart said it's like white pants after Labor Day. That's no longer a thing. Exactly. So rosé season.
It's all about living your best life.
All I can say is this is the time of year that all the new vintages of rosé come out.
It's just like flowers, right? I mean, you have certain perennials or is it perennials or what's the other word for it for things that you plant or not to plant? Annuals. Is it perennials that come back or annuals that come back?
I think it's annuals that come back.
Yeah.
So what's the flower? Is it the little daffodils? I think the little bulbs. Basically, every year they come back bigger, basically. And I think the same thing with rosé is how it's come back. And I think certain winemakers and producers used to make a few barrels of it. They used to make just enough for the wine club. And then they would say, hey, try on, here's 5 extra cases. And then we would start screaming for more and more and more. And it really is a thing between people making Pinot Noir from vineyards that, quite frankly, starts at $50, $60 retail and goes up. And they say, well, okay, that's going to sit at the winery for, let's just go ahead and say 18 months before we release it, versus a rosé, which we can say it's a purest expression, fresh, right off the bat, picked in September, late October in some cases, because of how long it takes to get it fully ripened, and in a beautiful, beautiful wine that we're drinking here in the beginning of March. So, and
it being International Women's Day,
yes,
I think there's such an amazing story here on the Lucy. Let's see here, I gotta get the light just right here. Yep.
Michelle says perennials come back, annuals do not.
See, that's what I thought.
See, why would they do that?
See, that's what I thought.
You would think annuals come around.
Well, annuals are once a year, right? Or you do that every.
Maybe that's what it is.
Every year.
It's like sparkling wine. It's like you would think dry is drier than brut, but no, brut is drier than dry. I don't know. Anyway,
well, I was just thinking that when you said that they were like flower, like rosés, or like
they're blooming again, is what I'm saying. They're blooming again.
We could do a fun event, rosés in bloom.
Rosés in bloom.
I guess
I'm here all night,
well, you don't come here for your gardening advice, that's for sure. So
definitely don't do that. But your garden, will definitely get more adventurous when you have a few bottles from Little Grape in your cart, right? So.
Well, what I was getting to go on this Lucy that we're tasting right now. Is how it's named and why it's
so first of all, Sony Vineyard is in the Santa Lucia Highlands, and so the sort of middle part of that, they took a little play on that Lucy, which is a fun little term. And also, ever since I've been with Tryon, this bottling has always been a charitable bottling, and so for their local breast cancer research, so it's not just only in October kind of a thing. So they donate $1 per bottle sold to the local breast cancer research there. It's not Susan G. Komen, it's another local entity there. But I think up to date, we just did a call on this recently. The only reason I know this, and she says up to date, it's close to $200,000 now that they've have raised for this local charity there, which I know in the grand scheme of things sometimes doesn't seem like a lot, but it's just great to be able to give back, obviously anything you can. And like I said, this is much, much different than the Alma de Catalia. So and the reason I mentioned that, guys, different appellation, but Bibiana and Jeff Pisoni of Pisoni Vineyard are married. And so when we did a call, she actually consults on the winemaking of this as well. And she was saying, okay, when you go out to your accounts, make sure you taste both of these side by side, because they're vastly different. The Pisoni, it's more the expression of this established vineyard. So it's whole cluster with a little bit of the Sauvignon, which is that kind of bleed from the $60 Pinot Noir, mind you. And what they do is they I won't say age them, but they hold them in what they call true neutral barrels, meaning barrels that have at least 10 years of age or older, meaning that there's no hint of oak whatsoever. It's just merely a holding vessel. And so what they do is just add that for a little bit of texture to it as well. And what I love about this particular wine, it's a sophisticated rosé. I mean, there's a lot of rosés I love, but they're very fun. They're whimsical, right? Yeah. They're kind of front to back. They don't really have a lot going on, and sometimes that's all you need. Yep. This is a rosé. You can sit there and you're like, wait a minute. I had a sip. 20 seconds later, 25 seconds later, it still lingers. It's got that mouthfeel. And what I love about it, it's not just like strawberry and pomegranate. I mean, I get like watermelon. I get nectarine off this wine. I mean, it's just a fun. I mean, it's super fresh, and that's what I love about it. And this is the first time I'm getting to try it, this vintage.
You know what I get, TC? Not enough.
Yeah, I was going to say,
not enough. I need to pour a little bit
more. I would agree with that. Yeah, I was letting it change flavor just from the temperature.
I was going to say, and this is something really you could totally let it sit out while, don't put it back in the fridge. After you've poured a glass for yourself, or for the partner, whoever's drinking it with you, just go ahead and let this sit on the coffee table, let this sit on the table, and you'll be rewarded. So, and I can already see a little bit of bubbles there. So again, that's how fresh this wine is, just right off the assembly line.
Very fresh, and it's very, very delicious. Mm-hmm. And if you're loving rosés, you need to have this in your fridge.
But can't say enough. Just again, the Sony Vineyard. Do your homework. Go out if you're a Pinot Noir lover. We get very, very little of the Sony estate is allocated, and I know Danny and I we bang our heads on allocation. You hear that word, and it's like a dirty word. It's like, okay, what do I got to do? But then they have some other wines that are more accessible. But even then, at the price point, I mean, how accessible is a $65 wine? It's fantastic, beautiful for aging, but certainly in that stratosphere of the Grand Cru. This is a wine. What did you do on the price point? $22.
$22, yeah.
From one of the most established vineyards. There's no hyperbole there, guys. Yeah. This is one of the most established vineyards, not only in California, but in Santa Lucia Highlands. If you're going to do one wine from Santa Lucia Highlands, it better be Sony Vineyard. And if you get a chance to try the 2020 Rosé, put that in your cart.
Yeah. It's going to be one I probably need to order extra of, because once some people try it in the shop, they're going to be asking for it.
I saw 12 cases in Durham. We'll probably have a little bit more in Charlotte, but it's one of those once a year kind of things. It's
going to go fast. And I think once you taste it, you'll know how delicious this is. I know we've been asking where everybody was drinking. Michelle's out working on her sugar snap peas in the garden while drinking some Zimmerman Merlot Rosé.
There you go.
There you go. A little local stuff with the Zimmerman. And then everybody else told us the difference between a annual and a perennial. So that's good. We know that now. Let's go to our next little trivia question.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to pull that up. So your next trivia question is right here. How many grape varietals are grown in California?
And we'll say plus or minus what? We say plus or minus 5 or 10. That's, I mean, we're plus or minus 5 or 10.
Well, yeah. Again, whoever gets the closest, without going over. Without going over. Go ahead and throw your answer in the comments. We'll come back to it here in a second as we're finishing up. But do know you can go over to loadedgrape.com and put this into your cart. This Lucy's drinking absolutely delicious. I know I'll be picking up a couple bottles.
I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go on. I'm still going to be drinking.
At one point, and I'm not saying this to get anyone's hopes up, so please don't comment or say I want this. But at one point, we used to be able to get these 187 4-packs that came with like its own like little I know it's like I know, and it had it's just marketing I love it. But this wine, it's a brand new label, label schmabel, it's what's in the bottle. I'm loving this new label. It's all about finesse, sophistication, and quite frankly, guys, this is a rosé that is sold in New York, Bar George, San Francisco. So you go to any of these white tablecloth restaurants, and you're going to pay definitely a lot more. But all these somms and restaurant owners are happy to pour Pisoni Lucy Rosé. I know we both were kind of giggling last week when it was like, oh, it's here. The Pisoni. We're thinking about wines to do for the Central Coast. I'm like, man, Santa Lucia Highlands, that is the one to do. So
I feel like we could do like a whole, even if these names are not like real names for people, for humans, but you could do like a female, like Marietta could be a female.
Yep.
Lucy.
Yep.
And even Sadori.
It's got the label.
Yeah, we got a lot of female names until we
stuff going on.
So actually until we get to the last one, which is Robert. But everything else is women's names.
2021. I mean, you can name whatever.
It's true. Yeah, we'll just go as Bobby, and then everything's fine.
Bobby,
right?
yeah, exactly,
So,
right. Bobby with just an I.
Well, we do have a lot of guesses in already. We'll give another little second here on that as TC. Let me finish this up.
No, yeah,
but let me reiterate something because the volume wasn't up about our Grateful Palate tasting with Dan Phillips on Thursday night at 7:30. It's virtual. You get a tasting kit. You pick it up at the shop, and then join us through Zoom with Dan. Dan's out in California. We're going to be tasting 5 of his wines, 3 new ones, including this one right here, the French Belle. So you might remember the Southern Belle or the Precious from Poor Thing from our wine club. So this is the newest thing to market. You'll be the first to try it, as well as the Strong Arms Bordeaux White and the Strong Arms Bordeaux Red. And what are
$12 for wine club?
12 bucks for wine club.
For 5 wines. I mean, that's
great. And then the other fun part about that is I did an interview with Eric Chilton today. So Wednesday we'll be airing that. It'll be airing on News 2. So because they, these wines are all bourbon barrel wines, and as some more folks know, Pappy Van Winkle bourbon barrel. So
and I think and at some point whenever I'm rambling on about the next wine, look on the back. I think Dan had mentioned he said something in collaboration with my friend from Kentucky or something like that. Yeah, it says
here original bourbon barrel aged wine. Pioneered in 2000 by Dan Phillips. By my friend who makes bourbon. But that friend that makes bourbon makes Pappy Van Winkle.
And can't even use his name, just like the Mondavis. They can't even use their name anymore.
Can't do it.
Well, and speaking of litigation, regulation, and the International Women's Day, the Sadori bottle, which we'll show you here in a second, has. What's really scandalous? Turn on the Disney Channel and you pretty much see, whatever, right? But this was a label that Adam Lee, the owner, actually had to go through. I think it's the Alcohol and Tobacco Firearms or one of these organizations that regulate such things. He had to, because it was a bare-chested female. Heaven forbid, see a boob, right? So anyway, I'm all about just free just stay, man. That's what it's about right there. Free the nipple, So
let it get out.
Gotta let it out.
Well, before we get
what's
to
our answers?
Our closest answer is going to be Melissa Cato with 75. So it's close, off by a lot, but close.
I figured we were going to get like thousands or 10,000. I figured there were going to be some people have very conservative answers out there tonight.
And that answer is 120 varieties, but there's 8 dominant grapes. 8 dominant.
Yeah, man, as can guess, ones that we're doing a few of those tonight: Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Cabernet, Merlot, Zen, Syrah.
Yeah,
there's probably something else.
Something out there you're leaving out. Yeah. So, but we'll have another question here after. So, congratulations, Melissa. You're getting a butler's tool as well from Robert Hall. So I know you can probably keep that in your car for all your Elkin winery visits. So you'll have one.
And you can use the reverse of it for things that you need capsules of. So it's not just for wine.
You could go to breweries too and do that. So. But cool. Congratulations, Melissa. She's like, yay!
And if I may add, I know things are loosening up a little bit. And so as people start to travel, and I've had enough of these confiscated by the TSA, I've learned, and I don't know why this is, somehow this part is more dangerous than this part, according to TSA. So if you were to travel on a check-on bag, make sure you take this off. You can leave this on. Again, I think that would probably do more damage than that. But the guy even told me, he said, if you can, he even told me that, and I was like, you know what, just keep it. I was like, I don't want to sit here and just rip that. That's not that. So anyway, just as a side note, factoid for those of you traveling, because I've had enough of these taken from me, just take one of those off for you. You'll be good. You can travel with it. So
there you go. There you go. Mr. TSA, informative.
Well, and as a matter of fact, there's a, and I've yet to do this at Greensboro PTI, but one of our reps in Raleigh, I guess, knows a guy that knows a guy, and one day made off with a haul of wine openers because, again, you think of all the things that either you can't take on the plane or were left. Was a box, literally a whole box. And I was like, oh my God. And he goes, well, yeah, because every time I go to restaurants or bars, people are always going, hey man, you're a wine rep. Can I get 4? And he's like, I got it. And he's got a whole box of them. I'm like, I didn't PTA. It's good. Listen, I'm a wine rep. Here's my card. I'm just going to pass them out. I'm going to pay it forward. They're just sitting here. I'm just going to, I don't want them for me. I don't need a whole box of them. So
yeah, but everybody's always asked for them. So
I bet if I do that now, they'll be like, somebody came a few weeks ago. Good idea.
Man,
I like Norm Macdonald. It's like, note to self.
Maybe when we fly out again, I'll just go, hey, when we get back, I'll be like, hey, you wouldn't have that many corkscrews, would you?
Yeah.
Mine got confiscated. I want to get a new one. All right. Well, now we're on to the Sadori Santa Barbara Pinot Noir.
Yeah, going a little south.
So good.
South, right?
This might be familiar for some folks if you came to our one of our wine. Which one? The Thanksgiving wine dinner.
Yeah.
We did this as part of the dinner. Loved it. Thought we'd add it in tonight since
I had a great deal price
on
it. I was able to find a great little deal price, and we couldn't do Central Coast without doing one of the more southerly appellations, or really the southern tip, or I would say that the before you start to go towards Los Angeles, and it's really kind of a whole different ballgame with Temecula and some of those other areas there. But it's Santa Barbara. Now, for those of you, and give us some thumbs up or hearts or comments that either A, have watched Sideways, or B, I should say, and/or love the movie Sideways. And for those of you that watched it, have loved the movie Sideways, I know I tend to break it out from time to time or watch it when it's on. The wine region they go to is in Santa Barbara. They stay in Solvang, which is this really cool town that, it's almost like Disney circa 1960. That was like the Scandinavian part of Disney. I mean, it's like these old school, like Norwegian, Danish type built homes that's right outside of Santa Barbara, and right when you start to get into Santa Rita and some of these other small areas like Santa Ynez and Santa Maria, which is a little bit further north. But what's cool about Santa Barbara is it's literally so cool there. Most of the vineyards, they have to be planted on this east-west of a kind of a, not slope, but on latitude versus longitude. That's what I'm trying to, or longitude versus latitude. But because of this cool air and these cool breezes that actually go through it. And so Pinot Noir was just perfect for here. So for this area. So as California goes, Napa and Sonoma, wine hasn't been made there really since the 1860s in Sonoma and the 1880s in Napa. When you talk about some of the first grapes ever planted to be made for wine, not to say grapes that were there naturally or native to California, were the Franciscan monks coming up from the Baja Peninsula through Los Angeles, Temecula, San Diego, on up. And at first they were the Mission grapes or Thompson seedless, but when you think of the Central Valley or Santa Barbara, their winemaking history goes back to these folks that were, almost 100 plus years before Napa Valley, so very rich area. But unfortunately, after a couple world wars, depression, and prohibition, it really wasn't until the 60s and 70s that this area had been rediscovered, and until I would say the mid to late 90s that Pinot Noir had really thrived as one of the best varietals to grow there. And certainly Sideways in 2003, 2004 really solidified that as one of the best areas in California for Pinot Noir. It's kind of one of the best kept secrets. Certainly people know about it now. But what's great about this particular wine, the Santa Barbara, as Danny wanted to do, it just has a fantastic price to it. Adam Lee, who is the owner of Sadori, celebrating the 25th year of Sadori. They're based up in Santa Rosa in Sonoma, but they make Pinot Noir literally all up and down the West Coast, all the way down to Santa Barbara and some small sub vineyards within there, like the Clos Pepe and Bien Decido, all the way up to Willamette Valley in Oregon. And, Adam, they just love Pinot. They actually do a little bit of Zinfandel. That's the super light Zinfandel, sort of like through the eyes of a Pinot Noir maker. But what I love about Adam is that he doesn't muck around. I mean, he started off in very humble beginnings, coming from the Midwest, wanting to get into the Pinot Noir game. Some of you probably heard me tell the story, dropped off a bottle of wine to Bob Craig. 4 months later, one of his editors at Wine Advocate called him up and said, hey, that's one of the best Pinot Noirs Mr. Parker had all year, gave it like 93, 94 points, which was one of the only Pinot Noirs that year he'd given such high accolades to. And almost overnight, the people that weren't answering the phone calls were like, oh, hey, we'll let you buy a ton of fruit here, a ton of fruit there. And he was able to build up this portfolio over time of just wines that were just that encapsulated Pinot Noir. He didn't want to blend them in and make a $15 California Pinot Noir. He wanted to make Pinot Noir that really showcased the grape and the varietal and what it is. So what I can say about this versus some of you going, okay, what about the difference between Carneros or Sonoma? Santa Barbara, even though it's cool, it has this slow methodical ripening. So whenever you try Sadori Pinot Noirs, I always say start north and south. So we would actually try Russian River, Carneros. He does some from Santa Lucia Highlands, and then we'd actually end up in Santa Rita and Santa Barbara because they're a little bit richer there. They're a little bit more full-bodied. Again, being a little bit further down in the state, it's a little bit warmer there. But again, being further on the coast, it's warm, but it's regulated by the sea. And that's really what I can say about Santa Barbara. Now, the only thing that's really protected is Happy Canyon, which is in the far east that grows Cabernet and Syrah. But just about everything else in Santa Barbara, really, you think about it, is Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, cool climate varietals specifically. So what do you guys think about this wine?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I, having drank a lot of Sadori lately and some other Pinot Noirs lately, it's one I haven't really appreciated Pinot Noir. I've been drinking so much Cab and so many other red blends and everything else that I'm now going, man, why have I been drinking some Pinot Noir lately? Yeah. I feel like I've neglected it.
You'll do it. I mean, I feel like that's your journey. I mean, because it's like music, right? I mean, you go through your teenage years, you want the heavy, you want the loud, you want the big, you want the aggressive, and then after a while, you're like, am I just listening to Miles Davis, a whole album of Miles Davis? You want nuance, and that's and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, hey, I want my big, loud, heavy wine from time to time, but again, like bone-in ribeye. The older I get, my body says, TC, you can't do that all the time.
Yeah.
So I want a wine that's just beautiful. It's sleek. It's sophisticated. And I think most people will agree with me. When a Pinot Noir is good, it's hard to beat any other varietal, red or white, in the entire planet that really showcases wine encapsulated, right? I mean, what's good about wine? I mean, it's like poetry. It's like
it is poetry. I don't know. I keep on smelling because it smells so nice in the glass, and as I sip on it, it's so silky smooth on the finish, but yet it does have a big mouth feel, and it does.
It really does for a Pinot Noir. It really
does. They usually in Santa Barbara, it's one of the last areas of all the Sadori Pinot Noirs that they do. It's one of the last to be harvested. So even in October, you would think, oh my God, the sugar levels, the alcohol's got to be out of whack. Well, because it goes so far down, not only at night, but also during the afternoon. I mean, if you're ever there in the afternoon, depending on the wind, and actually they call it the Coriolis effect, which actually are these winds, the Humboldt effect, or the Humboldt winds that kind of push up to Santa Ana, as they call the Santa Ana winds, as they say, that push up right there, really kind of keep it really cool and the slow method. I mean, and what's so great about it, one thing you always hate as a farmer growing grapes is in the fall, the rains come, right?
Yep.
Or it gets rainy, depending on where you're at, usually. Well, in this area, it's so, I would say, mitigated by the sea. You don't have that much rain. As a matter of fact, it's very dry. The soil itself is very poor. It's very well drained. So again, it's one of those areas that you're like, okay, if we're going to grow one agricultural crop, it better be grapes, because that's the only thing that can withstand this kind of pressure from the sea, this kind of, because it'll go up to 25 mile an hour winds on any given day. So it just keeps it, so any kind of cool weather or fog that happens, we talked about the mold and mildew because the clusters are so tight, that wind dries them out. So you talk about just a beautiful wine, and also for the natural people out there, organic, biodynamic. Some of the cleanest vineyards out there in California now are in Santa Barbara, because just by nature itself, they don't have to spray, they don't have to mitigate for all these bugs, bigger pests or small pests beget big pests. So it's one of these things that almost Mother Nature just kind of goes, it's just like blessed with like, you shall grow grapes here, and it just like you can go out and pick them.
It is so beautiful.
Beautiful.
This is actually for a Pinot Noir, it's pretty high ABV too, I would say.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so Santa Barbara is always going to be there, bigger, but still not like overdone. I mean, so the Willamette Valley is going to be the smaller, but
noticeable because I was like,
oh, it's going to be there. I mean, this is like more of that like red rose, dark cherry kind of,
definitely the cherry. I get on this.
Oh man, I mean, I love this. I love this wine.
Colors,
Yeah. So for those of you out, we haven't really talked about recipes in a while, but I love this with duck.
Not the
Dan,
duck.
not the duck. Don't do the duck. Don't do the duck.
We had duck last night. So,
I did it.
No.
she picked it off. We did a lovely little a wine dinner up in Elkin with Wisdom Table, which is like a wine shop like us, and Jeremy up there is also a somm and everything, and he partnered with one of the country clubs. Chef came in and we actually did a kind of well, it wasn't real. Would say that it was a like not pizza, but it was a flatbread, and it had it was 3 cheeses, duck. It was delicious.
Oh wow!
But
a little bit of Pinot Noir with it or something like that.
Actually, it was all bubbles. All bubbles. So all bubbles. So we did that with a champagne, which was very nice.
Speaking of bubbles, and for those of you, go ahead and comment now. Go ahead and comment now. I think we should do an all bubbles dinner and do it with like poppin' pig or something like that. I mean, have Vanna's brother just go crazy on a pig. Yeah. Well, every part of it. And he can have some courses that are more subtle than others. I mean, some that are just maybe bacon over salad. Then he has some that are just straight up like pork belly or short rib, or not short rib, but whatever the case may be, slow and low barbecue-esque type. And we just do all bubbles from off dry Lambrusco-y type to champagne, cava, prosecco.
Like
so if you guys are loving it, poppin' pig, man.
There's already an absolutely comment there. I will also say this: it's funny that she's upset about the duck, but we did have pork rinds at a brewery prior to that, and she didn't care. Didn't care.
God, I did care. I thought about it every time.
No,
she
didn't care.
Good,
she didn't care.
I just couldn't. I think of them as like, like when you're eating potato chips. They come from potato. It's in a bag usually. Like pork rinds are just not what you think they are. Mm-hmm. They're just like made up. Like somebody made that up. Yeah. That's how I eat them in my mind.
What did the guy say? I think he was Craig's dad on Friday. I forget he died just a few years ago. Really great African American comedian. I forget his name, but anyway, he was in Boomerang for all movies with Eddie Murphy. I think he was one of the dads, and he got on there and he's like, when I was on the farm, we loved the pig, and we ate every piece of the pig, from the Rudy to the Tootie.
All right. Well, as we move to the next wine, here's your next wine question: what is California's biggest wine producing region? So, what is the biggest wine producing region? Go ahead and throw it down here.
Region.
He wants to stay at the Regent Hotel. That's why
region
or the Regency.
Davies, New York comes out when he says those things.
Region. What is California's biggest wine producing region? Go ahead and throw your guesses down, and we will we'll talk about that here in a second as we move on. But
music's in the background.
One more time, that Sadori we have normally on the shelf at $29, marked down to $27, plus your club discount. So that includes 5% off if you're in the Cellar Club, 10% if you're in the Estate Club, or 15% if you're in the Grand Reserve or Reserve Club. So you'll write Cellar, Estate, or Reserve in that coupon code to get your discount. Also, we'll talk about one more other thing that we have coming up, which is the Italian wine and cheese event that we're doing on Sunday, March 14th. The 2 to 4 time slot already sold out. However, I still have some noon to 2 and 2 to 4, or sorry, 4 to 6 available, but not many. It's going to be probably a sold out event for the whole day. So don't sleep on that. Get in sooner than later on that as well. And we have some answers coming in. And you know what? We're gonna go right off the bat. Michelle, right here. Central Valley, 300 miles. Michelle, you are correct. You are you are also going to get yourself a Robert Hall Butler tool. So congratulations. You can pick that up next time you're in there. I know we have some Napa in Lodi, but it is Central Valley.
Yeah, Central Valley. And Melissa, and to be fair, Melissa, so Lodi, it's funny because Lodi is this unique area was kind of what's been making wine for centuries now, but is kind of in where I would say the Central Valley starts right to the north. But because of the delta there in Clarksburg, they're almost different in terms of climatically, and then anything south of there, because you're really getting into like Modesto and Fresno, all the way up the highway. I really call it the America's breadbasket. I mean, I think it's something like 60% of the agriculture there, but most of the wine, not only in California, but as we said on the onset, 90% is made in California. So let's go ahead and say most of the wine made in North America is made there. However, it's like the Parmesan, for those of you that remember the "I shall drink no wine before it's time" or any of those old commercials, right? That's basically where those wines are made from. And I'm just saying, they probably think they're making some decent wine, but we all know if it's not granny or grandma or a wino drinking that wine, it's usually a college frat or sorority party, and they pretty much go, they're not drinking that underage. Yeah, they're drinking that underage, and you're pretty much marketing to them too. So but anyway, Central Valley, good answer. I thought we tripped people up with Central Coast, Central Valley.
Yeah, I thought we definitely had one there where everybody was like, "Oh, Central Coast," but
no one even more wine.
No one answered that. But yet to add a little extra to that, yes, 300 miles long, crushes 75% of all grapes for wine.
Yeah. I mean, it's staggering. I mean, and I read a stat recently that Gallo, not just the companies that Gallo owns, but still just Gallo proper, or wines, box wines, jug wines labeled Gallo, about 2 years ago made as much, if not more, than the entire country of Portugal, which I think I mentioned a few weeks ago. But it's just staggering how much wine they make there. I mean, it's, we're talking grapevines that, are 12, 13 feet high and kind of go out almost as wide, and are basically just made for every vine every cluster of berries that you can get, versus when you go to places like St. Lucia Highlands and like Monterey and like Santa Barbara, you can find these well-tuned, well-trained vines. And again, like the Sadori, we're only talking a couple thousand cases or less every year. So they're very, very small production, but very specific of the terroir and the varietal. So anyway, going back up north now to Morgan, which I know it's been one of y'all's favorite wines. I mean, I know we did the Double L Chardonnay about a year or so ago in the wine club.
Yeah, and we did. We've also had both the Pinot Noirs at some point, both the Highlands and
Sauvignon Blanc. I know you love that. That's probably one of your go-tos for Monterey, that appellation.
Yep. So Morgan's one we're very familiar with. We do love having in the shop. The wines taste absolutely delicious. So this is actually minus doing a Morgan tasting in the shop. We haven't really had this on the shelf in a while. This is their Coach de Gros. It's a cuvee blend, and I'll let TC go into what grapes are in there. But this is yummy.
Yeah, guys.
Yummy.
Well, and as I said earlier, and we're going back up to the Santa Lucia Highlands, Monterey AVA. And Monterey AVA is fairly big, and you have Arroyo Seco and Santa Lucia Highlands and some of these other smaller little AVAs tucked in there. But Dan Morgan founded this winery with his wife in the mid-90s, early 90s, and then in 1996 planted the Double L Vineyard, which was named after twin daughters. They had found out basically the last minute they were having twins. I think it was all up until the pregnancy. They were having one daughter. I'm not saying the 90s were that long ago,
surprise. But imagine if that happened to you.
Well, I guess we would have dealt with it, but man, it's just like, I'm hoping sonograms were at least a little bit better. I mean, God, not to say 90s were like prehistoric times, but you think sonograms could be, they'd catch like a separate, baby in there. But hey, to each his own. I'm not calling out. Maybe the sonogram person had a long day that day, but they called it. They thought it was lucky, so they called it the Double L Vineyard. And so much like the Sony Vineyard, if you were to type in Santa Lucia Highland wineries, and there's actually a fantastic sort of a tourism-based website with all the listed vineyards there in Santa Lucia Highlands, Sony Vineyard is listed there, but also the Double L Vineyard from Morgan is also listed. So a little bit closer to Monterey, so a little bit further up from Santa Lucia Highlands. But this is one of Dan Morgan's favorite blends. He loves the Rhone Valley. This is his little salute to Chateauneuf-du-Pape. So we're talking Grenache heavy at about 60 to 70% every year. And then coming in with some Syrah about 20 to 30%. And then he'll kind of, as a whimsical, fun twist on it, he'll throw in a different varietal from time to time. In the past 2 or 3 vintages, he's done Tempranillo at anywhere from 5 to 10%. I think in this year it's about 7% Tempranillo, just to kind of give it a little bit of this kind of sandalwood, dried strawberry kind of a thing to it.
It's delicious.
And I love Grenache. One of my favorite varietals, Grenache, Grenache, Grapevine, the other name, right? But I love the representation in this kind of cool climate compared to other areas like Central Valley, but very reminiscent of the Rhone Valley. People always think of the Rhone as this very hot area. It's actually very moderate. It's very Mediterranean. They have the Mistral, which is this wind that kind of permeates, that goes through. And that's really the one thing that almost the entire Central Coast has in common. And the reason they've lumped all these areas together, which are over 40 some odd AVAs, is because you have these different shifts throughout the day. Almost all these areas can go up to 75, 80, 90 degrees in some cases, but go down to 60, 55, 40 degrees at night. And they all have these beautiful diurnal shifts, whether it be the San Andreas Fault or the Santa Cruz Mountains, or right there tucked along the Pacific, the coast. But they're all influenced not only by the coast and the mountains and high temperature changes. And that's what's great about it. And that's really the personification of Mediterranean wine. I mean, Southern Italy, Southern France. So for those of you out there that love Rhone Valley, that love GSM, that love Châteauneuf-du-Pape, that love Baccarat, whatever the case may be, I encourage you just to grab a bottle of this, because this is a fun wine. I mean, it's got this kind of like, this like a little bit of a little spicy kind of brambled plum kind of a thing going on in the background. This definitely overripe dark strawberry in the background. But a fun, I don't want to say sandalwood, but maybe like a little bit of this kind of dried, not only dried fruit, but like a little kind of a herbal thing in the background as well. But a fun wine, guys. It's a wine that's meant to be consumed young. It doesn't sit long at the winery. They put a Danny's favorite screw cap on it, Stelvin enclosure on it.
By the way, the first 4 wines. Oh no, I'm sorry. The rosé wasn't, but
only the rosé.
The rosé so far is only in the cork.
Yeah. And so again, this is a wine that you want to go ahead and bring home tonight, drink tonight, and then go ahead and order 2 or 3 more bottles, because we do have more of this vintage 2018, which is a beautiful vintage. I know in California, different areas were affected in different years from fires. Certainly in Northern California, I mean, God, just from 2017 onward, they were affected in some cases by fires. But in this specific part of California, was kind of forgotten about, because again, very, very green, very lush, right by the sea, and we're kind of blessed. Not to say they don't have fires there and drought conditions, but certainly we're spared and have been spared over the past few years. So 2018, one of the most idyllic conditions for the, I would say, the northern central coast. So Santa Cruz, Monterey, Santa Lucia Highlands. So get your hands on 2018. This is just drinking fantastically right now.
So good, down to $20. Plus your club discounts. This is one of the best deals of the night. Right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just tired of Zen blends, tired of Petite Sirah blends, Cab blends, I mean, this is just a breath of fresh air. I mean, how many true GSM blends under a couple hundred cases? I mean, I think he's making like 600 to 1,000 cases of this wine a year that you get from a small production winery that make Pinot Noir. And their reserve Pinot goes for $60-$80 a bottle. That can really get a wine like. I mean, this is what Dan says he drinks on a daily basis. He's talking about pizza, salads, burgers, pasta. I mean, hey, a little bratwurst and some peppers. I mean, this is what he's drinking right here. So
yeah, it's even though it's bigger, it's not overly big. It's very approachable. It's
you want to have the depth of not just kind of going away. I mean, unlike the Pinot Noir we had, which is kind of silky and smooth, this has that rustic quality. I mean, this has that. Hey, here I am. Yeah, I mean, it's like somebody's coming down the road and they got a spoiler, or not a spoiler, but one of those like little, it's like, okay, I see you. That's what this wine is. But it's beautiful, silky smooth, beautiful texture, and it's not, like you said, it's not tannic. It's big, it's there. It kind of mushrooms up, and then it kind of works itself away. And
I think with this was any kind of, I mean, the stuff that you were mentioning, it just sounds like the perfect pairing, like of
anything.
When you said sausage and peppers, I was like, oh, that's actually a really good
a little sausage and peppers, some onions. I mean, guys, my wife, little shout out to, I think it's Broad Street something or other. She's been getting at Whole Foods, paying, I'm sure, an arm and a leg, but she gets these 4 frozen patties from Philadelphia, and they're super fresh. I mean, they're frozen, but you can tell they're super fresh. I can't buy a Philly cheesesteak at a restaurant anymore, because after you throw some mushrooms and some onions and then take that out of the pan, sear you up that right there, and then she's been hitting up her work for some little hoagie rolls and some white American cheese. in this wine right here.
Oh,
And hey,
man.
and I'm going to tell you guys right now, some tater tots, some frozen tater tots right beside of it, some spicy ketchup.
You can't beat
Hey,
tater tots.
I mean, hey, you can cut up
Anything.
some potatoes if you want, but hey, we're all on a time crunch. Sometimes just grab the bag, throw it in there. So a little Philly cheesesteak. I mean, this is the wine.
That is spot
I know we
on.
haven't done porch pounder in a while, but can we go ahead and say porch pounder? This is
a porch pounder.
This is the porch
total
pounder.
pounder red. This would be if it's the temperature is going to be there. It would also be a pit pounder.
Pit pounder, yeah.
It would be a pit pounder.
We're in that Venn diagram.
Or we could just do this. We could just do porch pounder. We could do porch pounder.
Well, depends. I mean, some people run hot, some people run cold. Some people at this time of year want fire. Some people have never taken their flip flops off, right? So
it's true. It is true. This is a delicious, delicious wine. As we finish up this, we're going to go to another trivia question. So, with that being said, we asked that. Where was the? We did that. We did that one. All right. So, how many AVAs are recognized in the Central Coast? So AVAs are governed specific to that region for some sort of quality that you tend to find out of that region.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Yadkin Valley. There's no political boundaries like Guilford or Randolph County. I mean, Yadkin Valley spans several political counties. So as we mentioned earlier, and a show. A couple shows ago, Carneros actually is in Sonoma County and in Napa County. If you're in Napa County, you pay Napa taxes, but Carneros, depending if you're in the Carneros subregion, which is defined by the alcohol and tobacco firearms for some weird reasons. I'm not really sure why. And another trivia question, there's no prize. Well, let's go ahead and say, I'll throw a prize if we have enough prize for this. Yeah. First AVA in America. So this was, just to give you a clue, I mean, it wasn't until the, I'll go ahead and give you a hint. It was the late 70s or circa late 70s, early 80s. What was the very first AVA recognized in America? And that could be any wine growing region, any label that you've ever seen, from Monterey, Willamette Valley, Finger Lakes, Yadkin Valley. What is the oldest AVA? Well, the very first, I should say, was the very first recognized AVA in America. As we ding, 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 and pour Mr. Danny some.
Yeah,
look at the color.
Oh, so pretty, so pretty. Plush.
Very plush.
Plush. That's not a word, dude. I like it.
You gotta say it like Bill Walton when you have a few extra upper teeth. Plush. Very plush.
Plush. It's plush.
Sponsored by Hillshire Farm. Very plush.
Yeah, we'll give you guys some time. We're gonna move on and I'll come back. I'll interrupt him at some point. We'll I know it's a tougher question, so it's not as
as everyone
easy.
Does that one. I'll go. Should I go ahead and say the first AVA or no?
Yeah, you gotta say the first AVA.
So the first AVA, guys.
Somebody put a comment.
The very first AVA. To give you a hint, the second AVA recognized was Napa Valley. So most people say Napa Valley. The very first AVA, for if you want to stump any of your wine friends, and as a matter of fact, for those of you watching right now, you want to go to a fancy schmancy wine bar, and the person that's supposed to know everything about wine, you say, so what was the very first recognized AVA in America? If they do not say Branson, Missouri, they do not know what the hell they're talking about. Wow. And you can stump people. And I've actually won several drinks on that. I've actually, for some reason, tucked that in the back of the mind. 4 years ago, when Josephine's was before Scrambled, it was Josephine's. We were having lunch there, and a supplier says, okay, for a Magnum bottle or whatever, I guess he just thought he was being smart. It was like the reserve bottle. He goes, for a Magnum bottle of this, who can tell me the very first AVA of America? And I said, Branson, Missouri. And the guy almost was like he was like, did you just Wikipedia that? I mean, because he was not expecting that at all. And I'm just like, so guys, for those of you that trivia questions abound and want to get a free drink from a bartender, mixologist, sommelier, Branson, Missouri, 1980, 1982 was Napa Valley. Wow. Why do you need to know that? You don't. But if you're going to drink enough wine, damn it, these are facts that come up, right?
Well, yeah, but why aren't we drinking more out of Branson?
Maybe time has forgotten about Branson. I mean, to my knowledge, Branson, Missouri, it follows right down the either Missouri or Mississippi, and a lot of the German immigrants that planted it look like the Mosel, so they may do Riesling Gewürz. I don't know. I'm up to try it. I've never tried wine.
We need to find
Missouri.
We're going to find a Missouri wine.
The Show Me State, right?
The Show Me State. We're going to show me some Missouri wine.
Show me some wine. And why have they not done a thing with Jerry Maguire, by the way? If Missouri, like what politician from Missouri is not teamed up with that movie?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Show me the money. Show me.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for Ozarks to come back out too. I'm just, if anybody's waiting for that, I mean, has that come out yet?
Not the new season.
Yeah,
I know it's got to come out soon. We're well.
All right. So AVAs. Do we have any answers here?
We do. We actually do, and we have another one that's correct. The answer is actually 40 AVAs, and winning again. Michelle have to come up with a different prize. 40 is correct. Look at that. She's on it. So you know what? Since you already won the this, I was saving this one for last, but now since you've won two, we'll have to go to this. You are going to get the Robert Hall champagne bucket. So there you go. There you go. So now since you won two, you get there you go.
Or when the weather warms up and you want to drink Cabernet in July, sometimes you got to have some ice. Put your Cabernet on top of that.
Yeah, just to keep it from being 100 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. Well, there you go, Michelle. Two prizes tonight. Look at that.
Well, and speaking of Midwest, I knew there was a reason I was going there. Midwest, the next winery that we're going to be doing, Robert Hall from Paso Robles, which is really the central part of the Central Coast. Now, if Danny and I were in two different spots, Danny was in Los Angeles and I was in San Francisco, and I said, Danny, you drive north and I'll drive south. About 4.5 hours for both of us, we would meet in Paso Robles or Paso Robles, as the cool kids say.
Robles.
Paso Robles, as they say. Now, Robert Hall actually was an entrepreneur, a self-made man from St. Paul, Minnesota. So again, that's kind of where I was going with the Midwestern tie-in. But and I'm sure they make wine. I think there's a winery in all 50 states now, but probably not the capital of fine wine there. As Robert Hall, whom I've never met, I watched an interview with him one time. He said, when I was in St. Paul going to college, the number one drink of choice was beer. The second choice was beer, and the third choice was beer. And then when I, got a little older, it was beer, then spirits. And so he was never really a beer drinker. He was never a gin and tonic drinker. He loved wine. And I think like most of us that either don't have parents that drink wine or family members or you have someone that kind of gives you that aha moment. And Robert had that during college, right before he graduated. He just fell in love with wine and started traveling. Now, wine, he was never really in the wine industry, but found excuses to travel to France in particular, was a huge Francophile, and the Rhone Valley in specifically. I think at one point he said he traveled to Châteauneuf-du-Pape about every year for about 15 straight years. Wow. And so when he had the opportunity, when he was very successful in small businesses and different chains all throughout the Midwest, was able to procure some land in Paso Robles when they were doing what they called the Rhone Rangers. And this was a movement coined, I think it was Wine Spectator in the mid to late 80s, from these winemakers that instead of planting Bordeaux varietals, which were the traditional varietals after Prohibition, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, even Chardonnay, which are Pinot Noir, Burgundian varietals, these men and women were planting Grenache, Syrah, Rousson, Viognier, and they were kind of going against the grain. And Paso Robles was kind of this redheaded stepchild or Rodney Dangerfield area that wasn't getting respect, because even people like Gary Eberle, he would go out to the East Coast and he'd say, we're in Paso Robles, and people say, oh, that's great. Where in Napa Valley is that? And he'd say, okay, well, here, let me show you a map. Here's Napa Valley, about 800, 900 miles south. That's where we are, and so it was people like Gary Eberle and Tablas Creek and Stephen Assef from L'Aventure and Austin Hope and some of these other wineries that really kind of brought wine to the forefront and winemaking. And although Zinfandel has been and still remains the heritage grape of Paso, people know Paso for Zin, and they make great Zin. Tonight, what we tried to do is delve into areas that maybe are a little bit lesser known, or varietals from areas that are a little bit lesser known. So Cabernet, I will not say is the first thing people know about Paso for. Certainly Napa Valley and other parts of California, but on the, I would call the eastern side, the old side, to quote the Great Gatsby, East Egg, old money, new money, East Egg, West Egg, right? He was able to procure land on the east side. So these guys not only grow Zinfandel and Robert Hall makes beautiful Zin, they are as much invested in the Rhone varietals as well as Bordeaux varietals. So with this wine, and I was pouring for Danny, I was like, man, this wine is just so purple. I mean, this is not even red. You just get this beautiful plush blackberry.
It's violet.
It is violet. I mean, if schnozberry was a wine, I mean, it had a smell. But this dark chocolate. I mean, this is a beautiful wine. Lots of dark chocolate with this wine.
Super delish.
Oh man, I mean, I just get this like deep
we
violet.
Have a piece of chocolate with this.
Yeah, there you go.
You know where we can get some.
I do know where we can get some. But if I go out of the room, it'll wake up Philip.
Man.
Yeah, we can't wake up the dogs.
This wine, what I can say about Robert Hall. Listen to me now, or hear me now and listen to me later, as the pump you up guys would say. What I've always loved about Robert Hall, and again, take this with a grain of salt because I've sold Robert Hall for several years now. The Cabernet in particular, which is what we're having, it's able to run parallel to two lines. I think people love California wines, either for the jammy aspect or for that kind of rich, high tannin aspect. A lot of Cabernets do one or the other. There are a lot of Cabernets that kind of focus on more of that jam, ripe, fleshier fruit, right? Mm-hmm. And there's some Cabernets that are much more hidden on the fruit, and they're much more this darker, tannic, decant that wine on Tuesday and I'll drink on Saturday kind of a wine. What I've loved about Robert Hall is he runs parallel of both of those, because whenever you try Robert Hall, you're like, little jam. Oh, well, it's a little tannic. So it's like bumper cars a little bit, and I love about Robert Hall is he's really able to focus in and dial in Cabernet that's got this dark chocolate flavor to it. That's not just this overripe, jammy, hot Cabernet that you find from other parts of California.
This is yummy. This is delicious. And a lot of times people come in and go, hey, I want a cab that I could just drink. Mm-hmm. That's this. Yeah. You don't need food. If you have food, it's a bonus, but you don't need it. But it's just a beautiful cab that you can just open up and just enjoy.
If you're coming to the shop, if you guys already know 4 or 5 other wines that you're going to, the Stoneburns, if you're going to buy the Southern Belle, if you guys are going to do some of these tastings, the Marietta or the South African tasting, whatever tasting's coming up, you're coming to the shop, you're going to buy Cabernet. Let's go ahead and face it. You're going to buy Cabernet. You're going to have a Cabernet. If you're getting 3 bottles, 6 bottles a case, Cabernet just permeates the box, especially if you're going to do California. I think Robert Hall, for my opinion, for price to point to quality ratio, I know we've always talked about this. I love Napa, but I can't afford to drink Napa every day. Sonoma's really becoming up there in price point as well. Certain parts of northern Central Coast even have become, again, Sony Vineyard, as we talked about. Paso is kind of remained this beautiful area that's this hidden gem, different climatically and soil from Napa, but has maintained this price. And frankly, I would blind test a lot of Cabernet from other Cabernets from Napa that can even come. I mean, reserve tier price point from Paso is like entry level price point for Napa, and I'm kind of apples to orange here because they're two different areas. But what I love about Robert Hall, Eberly, Tobalus Creek, L'Aventure, they run this gamut of this full bodied flavor, but also beautiful streak of tannins as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're good right now, but they can also age 4, 5, 10 years. I mean, I've had some Robert Hall cabs from like circa 06, 07 that are just as fresh as the day they were bottled. So
this is so yummy. And as we finish this up, we have our last question. I'll have to figure out a prize for.
Let's do it.
If it's not Michelle, hoping it's a new winner, I can give away the last Butler tool. And that is the last question. Here we go. As of 2018, what is the most planted varietal in the Central Coast? So go ahead, throw in your answers and see if we get another winner here. Well, we shouldn't go too long because then they can just Google it.
Yeah.
Guy,
let's just say 20, 30 seconds.
Well, the thing is they're on like a 30-second delay no matter what.
So Vanna, what do you think so far? I mean, as we get some answers in here, Vanna, what do you tonight, Central Coast, what have we learned? I mean, just diversity, right? The whole kaleidoscope.
Very diverse.
It's like California in a nutshell,
Yeah. And to me, it's like in the best possible way, like all of the different flavors and profiles. Like I seriously have enjoyed every single one. If I had to do my picks, though, I've really, really enjoyed the Marietta as well, Sauvignon Blanc, the Lucy, and for sure the Sadori and the Robert Hall.
Nice. Well, I think Vanna basically says everything.
Everything. She said everything. Yeah.
This one was more dry for me, but that's just me.
And just let you guys know, I mean, there's some shows Vanna like some wines more than others, but I can go ahead and say I can see in her eye. This is one of those shows Vanna's like, you know, this is a Vanna like. Well, you know, hey, it makes our job easy, you know, when the wines are good.
You brought the California stars.
These are, I mean,
stars.
when you have Paso, when you have Wente, when you have Sadori, when you have Morgan. I mean, guys, you look up in a book, you know, Kevin Zraly, Karen McNeil, you know, Wine Folly, any of these wine writers, bloggers that people talk about, if they're doing Central Coast and not talking about these wines, they're not talking about Central Coast.
Yeah, yeah, this is really, really
these
good.
Are all like all stars for me, for sure. Danny, do you have a
Cheryl threw in Cabernet. And since she's the only one to make a guess so far, and the only one not to win a prize, we're going to give you a consolation prize for taking a guess.
It starts with a C.
It starts with a C, so therefore it was close enough. The answer is actually Chardonnay.
Yeah, Chardonnay.
Chardonnay, more than half. But I'm going to say that answer of Chardonnay is or Cabernet was a good answer, because you think how publicized Cabernet is, but Chardonnay is what everybody goes for,
and a lot of that's grown, believe it or not, in the Central Valley, because again, Cabernet is king.
Yeah.
If you look at California, there's more acres dedicated to Cabernet, so that's a great guess. If we were to say what grows most in terms of grapes to make wine, it's Cabernet. Most of that's grown in those big, you know, bulk wineries in the Central Valley. But when you go to the coast, kind of cool. And you really have these very few tucked away places, Paso Robles being one of them. In Santa Barbara, Happy Canyon, Santa Cruz, which is up just south of San Francisco, which is blocked by, you know, the mountains, the Santa Cruz mountain range, not too far from Silicon Valley. As a matter of fact, Mount Eden, I mean, the Edna Valley. I mean, so these are some of my favorite areas that are just tucked away because of that. But Pinot Noir and Chardonnay permeate. And when we were looking up some factoids, I was really surprised. You know, not that Chardonnay was the leading, but over half. I mean, that's, you know, let's just go ahead and say most of the Chardonnay in California is coming from Central Coast. So
it's actually, that happens a lot in the shop. A lot of people come in if they don't know, you know, they're buying a gift for someone and they're like, I don't know what they like, but, you know, what do you think? What's like the most popular thing? And they're like, probably a cab, right? I'm like, actually.
Yeah.
So I was like, you really do need to know what they like.
Well, and as we talked about tonight, guys, you know, Central Coast, 700 miles long. Danny, you know, these guys probably have some great items in the shop that just say Central Coast. But what we try to do tonight is showcase that not only those 40 AVAs, which are big regions, you have several other small regions. I mean, so just Paso Robles alone has 11 subregions. So as anything else, guys, as you delve into Central Coast, I mean, yes, Central Coast is this very broad term, but, you know, seek out Santa Lucia Highlands, seek out Santa Barbara, seek out Paso Robles, seek out Santa Cruz, seek out Livermore Valley. I mean, Wente. I mean, some of you already know. You're already Wente converts. I mean, the Riva Ranches of the world and stuff like that. So, which, by the way, we have kegs of Riva Ranch. So I don't know, for those of you who have home bars, need a keg of Riva Ranch. You know what? You know a guy that can
get you kegs of it. That's awesome. So let's do a quick little rundown recap of tonight's show. Everything ordered tonight will be available Wednesday at 4:00,
including the
Rhone Rangers Sauvignon Blanc. Yes. So if you did the Rhone Rangers tasting and you ordered one of those, that will be available on Wednesday as well. So exciting news on that. You can order all the wines over at theloadedgrape.com. Right now, you're going to get your discount. Don't forget to put your discount codes in of Cellar if you're in the Cellar Club, Estate in the Estate Club, or Reserve if you're in the Reserve or Grand Reserve Club. And so let's do a quick little recap here. First off, we started with the Marietta's Sauvignon Blanc. If you remember the whip, it's kind of a similar makeup of grapes.
Much drier now, yeah.
Yeah, much drier, much drier.
Based, but not the grapefruit not the grapefruit bomb. I mean, that's the best way to describe it, right?
Definitely not.
Delicious.
Beautiful wine.
Have this marked down from 23 to 21. So plus your club discounts, you're getting a great deal on that bottle. Then we went to the
Sony Lucy,
Sony Lucy Rosé 2019, drinking amazing.
2020.
Oh, it's 2020.
2020 just came out. Just freshly landed.
Fresh off the presses.
Fresh and so clean.
So we have that normally at 24, down to 22 this week.
It's only whole cluster pressed from like one of the most prestigious vineyards in California.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, guys, and they're donating money for charity.
Yeah.
Like, hello. Whatever.
Hello.
No big deal. Nothing to see here.
Hey, lady.
Hey, lady.
So Sadori, this is their Santa Barbara County Pinot Noir. Absolutely delicious. Loving everything from Sadori, from Willamette to Santa Barbara to Santa Rita to, wherever they put a label on it, I'm ready to drink it.
If you want rich without being over the top with still maintaining the freshness, that's what I love. Not necessarily for you Burgundy lovers, maybe Willamette Valley lovers, but that is something, folks, for you folks that are just, you're like, man, I've tried some other Pinots out there. They're kind of thin. They're kind of watery. Try this right here, guys. That is going to be beautiful and fleshy.
Normally at 29, got it down to 27 plus your club discount, so take advantage of that. And the Morgan Coats de Crows. This is a kind of Chateauneuf de Pop style from Monterey. And it's funny things. We could have easily done Pinot Noir from Monterey, but we didn't. We went.
Well, we technically did. We did a rosé Pinot Noir.
Rosé Pinot Noir. We didn't do.
And the reason I wanted to mention that too, we didn't do Zen, we didn't do Chardonnay, we didn't do Pinot Noir. And what I love about that, and the reason we didn't do that's easy. It's too easy. There's so much Chardonnay and Pinot Noir out there. It'd be hard to pick one or two. We really want to delve in and find. I mean, how much Grenache are you finding out there, guys? I mean, how much Sauvignon Blanc blended with Malvasia from Central? I mean, Cabernet, right? So that's I think when we were doing that, when we were trying to pick some wines, that's kind of what we were thinking about. So
that Morgan Coats de Crows, 22 down to 20, which I think is an excellent deal. Definitely take advantage of that. And then we finished up with the Robert Hall Cabernet, 26 down to 24 from Paso, drinking amazing. Drinking like you need to drink the whole bottle. That's how it's drinking. We'll do our best to not drink the whole bottle.
I was going to say, this is how much TC has to drive home. So
even
when we don't want to pour out wine, sometimes we have.
Yeah, normally we pour out during the tasting. We didn't really pour out tonight, so this is there was not much dumping happening. We were definitely enjoying these wines. You can go over to loadofgrape.com, put in your order. Don't forget about a couple of the events that we have coming up, including on Thursday with Dan Phillips from the Grateful Palate. I can't stress enough how awesome this tasting is going to be. Tasting 3 new wines from his portfolio. You'll be the first ones to taste it. $15 for non-members, $12 for members. You pick up your tasting kit starting at 2 on Thursday.
First to put wine in bourbon barrels. And honestly, guys, even if you know someone out there, because bourbon is a big thing now. If you know someone out there that goes, I don't drink wine, I love bourbon. For $12 or even $15 if they're not members, for $15 they can talk and ask questions about bourbon country, how they procure the bourbon barrels, and guess what? They're actually going to be drinking some pretty damn delicious wine as well.
Really, really good. And then also next week. We have on Sunday we're doing the Italian wine and cheese. The 2 to 4 o'clock session sold out, so I still have noon to 2 and 4 to 6. But there's very limited spaces available. So don't sleep on that. If you want to do it, get your spot, reserve your spot today. We got so much stuff going on. It's crazy. Next week we have Julia joining us, so TC's going to get a week off. But Julia Hunt from American Premium Beverage will be joining us on winery only exclusives. These are bottles that are normally only available at the winery. So you'd have to go to Napa, or you would have to go to wherever the winery is and buy it from them direct, and then ship it home and all. So you're not going to have to worry about shipping. You're not going to have to worry about any of that. We're doing that for you. We're getting you amazing wines that you normally cannot get in the market. And you're not going to be able to go to any other place to get these wines. This is a special show for that specific reason, that we've procured these wines for this show. And then we're going to be back with TC, but next week, during that show, we're going to be drawing names. Anybody who has ever ordered from Virtual Vines will be in there. We're going to pull out a bunch of names, and you and a guest will be able to come into the shop, taste along with us while we're doing the show, and be part of a live audience for our 1-year anniversary show. So you don't want to miss out on that. It'll be a lot of fun to do that. So, but we'll So schedule availability, because I'll be reaching out to you.
Might be some bubbles. Who knows? Might be some sabers. Maybe some
sabering. That would be good. Inside the shop, we could do that.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we might break a window. That'll be cool. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do that. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in and supporting us and everything throughout this. And I know as things are opening up, we're doing more in the shop, including the South African wine tasting. So just so much stuff going on. It's just incredible that we're finally a year later kind of moving back to doing some more live tastings in the shop. And me and TC are probably going to be looking at the end of this month, how do we progress in the future with Virtual Vines. We don't want to do away with it, but we're going to have to figure out new ways to kind of make it happen, since everybody's going to be like, hey, I can go out and do whatever I want. So expect a little change in the format and what we do as things open up. But folks, great wines tonight. You don't want to miss out on these. Get your deal pricing and your club pricing on top of that. If you're not in the club, please reach out and figure out how to join our club, because I think you'll love the savings and love the wines that we select each month in the club. It's actually a TC month right now. We got a lot of his wines in the club right now. All the good stuff, and people are really loving on that Ramsgate Pinot Noir from Sonoma. That's really delicious. Folks, look forward to seeing you in the shop this week, and hopefully being able to do that tasting with Dan Phillips on Thursday. For Vanna Vines,
for Vanna, Mr. Danny. Central Coast wines are drinking great, so make sure you keep on exploring and keep on tasting. Till next week, we'll see you guys then.
Cheers.
Bye.